Where can you find 6,000 local businesses with just one click? EverythingMidmo.com.
Hello and welcome again to the Columbia Daily Tribune's Behind the Stripes webcast. This is sports editor Joe Walljasper alongside Tribune college football beat writer Dave Matter. Dave, Baylor coming to town on Saturday. This is a team that I think a lot of people had high hopes for them breaking their bowl drought. They haven't been to a bowl game since 1994, but in the third game of the year, Robert Griffin, their star quarterback, tears his ACL, and since then it's been pretty dismal. Yeah. A little surprised that the loss of one admittedly great player has just sent them into the tank the way it has.
Yeah, it's been kind of a deflating loss for, it seems like, both sides of the ball. I mean, I thought their defense would be pretty competitive this year. Up the middle, they're really good. Phil Taylor, a transfer from Penn State, is a defensive tackle that's had a good year. Joe Polowick, the linebacker, one of the best in the Big 12, has been for years, and Jordan Lake, a really good free safety. So they've got the ingredients, I think, to have a pretty good defense. But they have just really struggled here since losing Griffin. And it's just, he was probably one of the most indispensable players in the Big 12. They've got good playmakers around him, but when you take him out, you know, he's the distributor of the whole thing. He's such a threat to run the ball. It just seems like they lost everything on offense, and they've kind of lost hope. So, you know, they hung with Nebraska for a while last week, but, you know, I just don't know if they're a good enough team to beat someone like Missouri, who's playing a little bit better right now and playing at home and playing with a little bit more confidence now.
I'd almost equate it to maybe like in 2002 or 2003, Missouri losing Brad Smith.
Yeah.
I think he was a similar player and a similar role in the offense. I think they're only averaging like 8.5 points per game in Big 12 play, so it's not hard to see why they're 0-4.
Yeah.
Defensively, though, like you mentioned, I think people thought they would be pretty decent. Jordan Lake, another guy who's a good safety, and then, as you mentioned, Pollock. Do you think this is a team that Missouri, you know, we've talked about Missouri's running game and how much they like to use it, but this is Big 12 ranking for Baylor, and the running game is 12th defensively. Do you think this is a team where Missouri really does lean on this and try to make sure Gabbert comes out of it healthy?
Well, on paper, it looks like a pretty good matchup for Missouri to lean on the run, like they did last week at Colorado. 45 carries is the most Missouri's had since 2007. So, yeah, it looks like that. But also, the healthier he gets, the more it seems like Missouri will not lean on the passing game, but expect him to do more also. So I think they'll still try to be balanced. You know, they're going with this two-back formation a lot. I think they ran it, by my count, 11 times against Colorado. Only picked up 36 yards on those. One of them was for 18. So not super effective, but it gives the defense a different look, something else they have to prepare for. Missouri still, most of their success was running out of the one-back look, out of the shotgun. That's where they picked up some of their big runs against Colorado. So I think they'll continue to use both of those, and they've got the depth to do it. They've got three pretty good tailbacks, and it's interesting to see that evolve and to see Missouri become a little less predictable on offense when they're running the ball, because they've got so many different options back there when you have two running backs next to Gabbert.
Baylor against Nebraska gives up 5 sacks to one guy, Jared, and it wasn't Ndamukong Suh, it was
Right.
Jared Crick. What do you think that maybe means for Missouri? I mean, do you think Aldon Smith is kind of in line to have a monster game against this offense?
Yeah, he and maybe a few others. You know, he's really come on lately, and he's got 8 sacks right now, right up there among the Big 12 leaders in sacks and tackles for loss. Among Big 12 defensive linemen, he's third in tackles behind just the two guys you mentioned, Suh and Crick. So he's really been productive lately, and he makes plays that don't show up in the box score also. I mean, he gets a lot of hurries. He's just causing some disruption back there. He knocks down at least a pass down at the line of scrimmage once a week. He did it last week at Colorado late in that game. So I think this is a chance for him, these next 4 weeks really, for him to really add to those numbers. He's going to get a lot of attention here. He's in line for Big 12 honors as just a redshirt freshman, and I will take credit that he was my pick for preseason newcomer of the year in the Big 12. I'm sure he only got 1 vote, but he might live up to it and receive that honor.
I think he might have a chance, even in this game, to become Missouri's single-season sack leader. He's got 8 now, and he needs 3 more to tie Justin Smith. It's not inconceivable he could get that this week.
If not this week, next week. But, I think he's got a really good shot. And then, again, maybe all Big 12 honors. You could Jeremy Beal, really good defensive end from Oklahoma. Brandon Sharp, a guy from Texas Tech that has more sacks right now at this point. Sergio Kindle is always going to be in the mix. Even though his numbers aren't great, he has that reputation as being such a great pass rusher. So I think Aldon's squarely in the mix at this point.
I mean, I don't think there's a team in the Big 12 he wouldn't start for. Certainly.
Right.
I mean,
right, and he's done it against good competition too. He sacked Colt McCoy twice, or sacked Texas quarterbacks twice. The second time was against their backup, and he's had a pretty good game the last couple of weeks.
All right. Lastly, we'll have a little viewer mail.
Yeah, we got a question this week from reader Stephen McDonald, and he wants to look ahead to the future a little bit. Forget this season. He wants to talk about 2010, but he wants to know, who do we expect to be kind of the quarterback stars of the future in the Big 12? The really established guys right now, even Sam Bradford, if you include him in the mix, won't be around next season. So who's it going to be? This kind of touches on the question you asked Gary Pinkel yesterday about the prolific numbers in the Big 12 passing offenses the last couple of years. If you expect this to continue, who's your pick for some of the stars next year? I mean, Blaine Gabbert's going to be one of the more experienced guys. Whoever Texas Tech lines up, if it's Taylor Potts coming back for his senior year, I think Jared Johnson at Texas A&M, he puts up really big fantasy numbers. They haven't won a lot of games, but he's a guy that puts up the numbers, and they're getting better. So I think he's a guy you look at. And then, Griffin, if he comes back for Baylor, see what he can do coming off the knee surgery. So there's a couple of young guys in there, but no real established stars next year, I don't think.
Yeah, the one thing that might hinder Gabbert a little is he's not going to have go-to receivers like he's got this year. That might be a little tough on him. It could be Griffin, but you just never know with an ACL. The first year back, especially for a guy whose bread and butter is running the ball like Griffin, that's going to be a little tough. So I don't know. That is an interesting question.
Landry Jones maybe at Oklahoma. He's getting a lot of experience now. Or Garrett Gilbert, a guy who'll take over for Colt McCoy too. So it'll be a different kind of storyline going into next year.
All right. Well, tune in next week when we discuss the Baylor game and look forward to what could be a huge game at Kansas State, kind of depending on what happens between Kansas State and Kansas this week. And next week we'll start going to one football webcast and going to one basketball webcast.